Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this video, we'll be doing a card slider and we'll be doing this with just vanilla JavaScript, no JavaScript library, no slider JS, and we'll be using the random user.me API to generate the image, the name, the email, and the country. So if I click, I can move, and when I get to the end, it stop moving, I can come back and stop moving. So this is what we're building, guys. I hope you enjoy this. So let's get started. Alright guys, so I have my text editor open with my index.html file, style.css and script.js. Everything is empty. So we are going to type this from scratch. So I'm just going to put down my boilerplate and I'm going to change this to card slider for the title. Then I'm going to bring in my font or some script, and I also want to link my CSS file, and I'm just going to put my app container here. I'm going to say app container, and we're going to have a div with the ID of container. Then I also want a header, so I'm going to say header, and I'm going to have a container with the ID of header, and inside I'm going to have an h1, and I'm going to say card slider. And before I forget, I also want to put down my script. I also want to link my script, my JavaScript, and I'm just going to open up this with live server. So that's what we have. So let's move on. And so I'm going to create another div, a div with the ID of slide container. Slides container, yeah. And inside that div we're going to have a button container. So let me just put a comment here, buttons container, and we're going to put a div, the ID of buttons container, and I'm going to have a button, and inside this button I'm going to have an I tag with font or some class, arrow dash circle dash right. So this is the right arrow, and I'm going to give it an ID of forward, right, and save. So this should be circle and save. So we have the icon there. So I'm just going to copy this button and I'm going to paste this, and I'm going to change this to left, and also change this to left, and change the for to back, to backward left. So I'm going to have another container. I'm just going to say slides. So this here all the slides is going. So I'm just going to create a container with the ID of slides. Then we are going to have each slide. I'm just going to put 3 for now. So I'm going to have uh let's use a class. So I'm going to say slide, a class of slide. Then we're going to have a container for the image. So I'm going to say slide image container, and inside we are going to have an image tag. I'm just going to leave this empty for now, Then I'll come below, then we're going to have an h4, and this h4 is where we're going to put the name. So I'm just going to say name. Then we're going to have a paragraph, a p tag, and this will be the email. I'm just going to copy this down. Then this is going to be the country, and save. So this is what we are going to have, but I just want to bring in just going to say um um random. Just going to go to my random user API, and I'm just going to take one of the image. I'm just going to copy the link and put it here and save. So we have this image here. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste. So we just have three. So this is all for our HTML. We are going to go into our style sheet and style this. So I'm going to start putting down my styling, and I just want to reset the default styling. So I'm going to set margin to 0, and I'm going to set the padding to 0, and I'm going to set box sizing to border box and save. Then I want the background color for the body, background color to be very light gray, and I want the font family to be Poppins, and save. So, and I'm just going to put some base styling here. I want I want every image to take 100% of its containers. So I'm going to say width. I'm going to set the width to 100%. Save, and I'm going to start by styling the header with the ID of header, and I'm going to set the background color to #6900289, and save. um so this is what we have, and I'm going to set the margin. I'm going to give it margin bottom of 4 rem, and I'm going to give it a padding of 2 rem for top and bottom, then 0 left and right, and I'm going to align the text to center. Then I want the color to be white. Save. So this is what we have, and I'll move on to styling the slide container, and I'm going to say slide container, and I'll set the position to relative. Save. Then I'm going to take my buttons container to buttons container, and I want the buttons, and I'm going to position it absolute, and I'm going to set the top to 50%, and I'm going to give it a font size of 1.5 rem to make it bigger. I'm going to set the v index to 1 because I want it to be at the top. And I'm going to set background color to transparent, and I'm going to give it a color of hash ffbb02 and save. We see we have it here. And I also want to set the border to none and save. um let's make this a little bit bigger. So this is the buttons, and I'm going to select the first button. So I'm just going to copy this. I'll copy this here, and I'm going to say int child to get the first button, and I want to position it right 5%, and I'm just going to copy this, grab the second button, and I'm going to set to left 5%. So this is what we have. And I'll copy this, paste, but I want this to be over. I want this to be over, and over I want the color to be lighter. So on over I'm going to say hash fdd567 for lighter yellow. So if I over, you see. And now I'm going to style the slides. So I'm going to say slides and get the slide. Excuse me. And I'll set the mean width. I'll set the mean width to 358 pixels, and I'll give it a padding of 1 rem. And I also want margin 0 for top and bottom, then 1 rem for left and right. And I want background color of purple, and I want color to be white, and I also want to align all the text to center. I also want to set transform translate text to 0, and add a transition. So anytime we click, it's going to move with ease, not going to be static. So I'm going to say transform for what I want to add transition to, and I'm going to set the transition duration to 5 seconds, and I'm going to set it to ease and save. So this is what we have. I'm going to come over here, and I'll grab the slide container, and I'm going to set the max width to 1170 pixels, and I want margin to be auto to position it at the middle, and I want display to be flex, and I want overflow to be hidden, and save. So I'm just going to make this big. So this is what we have. So I'm just going to make it smaller back. Then I'm going to come over here and add border radius of 16 pixel, and save. So we have the nice round edges. and I'm going to take the I'm going to say slides dot slide, and I want the slide image container. I want the slide image container, and I'm going to set the width to 150 pixel, and I'm going to set the border radius excuse me, to 50%. Save, slide, slide. Oh, I want space. Save. Let me just check my HTML to. Oh, this is an ID. Um, ID of. We're going to make this smaller. So ID of slide. So this should be hash, and save. Just want to put back the space. Uh, slide slide image container, and border radius 50%. Uh, oh, this should um I'm just going to copy this. I'm supposed to apply border radius to the image, so 50%, set to 50%. Yeah, and I want this. I'm just going to set the margin to. I'm going to do 0, auto. I want auto for the right, and I'm going to say button 1 rem, then auto for the left. Save this. So this is what we have, and I think that's all for our styling. So yeah, that's all for our styling. Um, so we're going to move over to our JavaScript. We're going to move over to our JavaScript, and I'm going to start by bringing all my UI variables. So I'm going to say I actually want to put this in an object, so I'm going to say const vars. You can put it globally, but I just feel putting my variables in an object makes it more organized. So I'm going to bring in the forward, forward right, forward right button, and I'm going to set this to document dot query selector, and I'm going to select it with the ID of forward right, which we gave to it from our HTML. And I'm going to bring in, this should be right, RIGHT. I'm just going to copy this, paste, and this should be left. So I'm just going to say left, and the last thing I want to bring is the slide container. So document dot query selector, and it has an ID of slides, and save. So the next thing I want to do is to excuse me, is to make a request to the random user.me API and get the data. So I'm going to use async, and I'm going to say function. I'll call it get profiles, and I'm going to say const res, and I'll wait fetch, and I'm just going to copy the URL, paste it. This should be in quotes. So, and I want if you check the random user API, that documentation, to get specific number of images, you can basically put a question mark, and say results, and you can set the results to, I want 10 for this, so I'm just going to say 10 and save. Let's just go back to, and I'm going to say const data, and we're going to set this to await res.json, because what we'll be receiving is the JSON file, the JSON data format, and we are going to return this. Let's not return this. Let's just, I'm not going to log this. So let's just log this owner. Let's log in the data and see what we have. And I'm going to call this function. So if I open my console, we're going to see objects, and we have results with 10 objects inside. So if I change this to 20, see we have an array with 20 objects inside. So I'm just going to remove this, and what we want to do here is to return the data. Next, I want to create a function to handle all my events. So I'm going to say events, and I'm just going to put down all my events here. So first, what I want to do, I want to create a DOM event. So I'm going to create a DOM content load event. So I'm going to say document dot add event listener, and I'm going to listen for when all the HTML in the DOM loads. So when it loads, I want to call a function called load profiles, and I'm going to come over here and create that function. So I'm going to say load profiles, and I also want to call my events function down here. So when the DOM content load, what do I want to do? I want to take the get profile object, since it's we're using fetch and async, is going to return, since we are making a request, it's going to return a promise. So I'm going to use the dot then syntax, then I'm going to say profiles, can't see what I'm typing, and I'm going to return, and I'm going to say profiles dot for each. This is an array, so we can look through it with for each, and I'm going to say for each profile. You can choose to call this card. I think that will make more sense, but I'm just going to leave it as profile. For each profile, what do I want to do? So for each profile, I want to create a div, and I'm going to say const slide. I'm going to set this to document dot create element, and want to create a div, and I'm going to give the div a class name. So I'm going to say slide dot class name, and I'm going to set it to slide. Remember, that's what we have in our HTML. and I'm going to say slide dot inner HTML, and I'm going to use backtick, and I'm just going to come to my HTML. I'm just going to make this bigger, and I'm going to copy everything we have here. I'm going to cut it. Then I also want to get rid of all the slides we have here. So I'm just going to get rid of everything here. Save. I'm going to come back to my JavaScript. I'm going to come back to my JavaScript, and I'm going to paste this here. So what do I want to do? I want to set all these values to the data we're getting from the API. So I'm just going to, before I return this, I'm just going to console.log data again. I'm going to log the data again. So when the DOM loads, you see we get the data, and I just want to see what we have for results. So we have results, we have I'm just going to open this. So we have email, we have name with title, first and last. We have picture array, and we have large, medium, we have thumbnail. So I'm going to come over here, and if this is result, it simply means that this should be profiles dot result. So I'm going to change it to results. So we're looking through the result array, and I'm going to remove the source here. I'm going to put in my dollar symbol, and I'm going to say um, profile dot. So we have access to picture, and I want the large. I'm going to save. We're not going to see anything because we have not insert this element we created into the DOM. So I'm going to come to the name, and I'm going to put a column. Then I'll put in my dollar symbol, and we want to do this. I'm just going to open this again so I can see what we have. So we have going to be profile dot name, and I want the title first. I'm going to say dot title, and I want to put a full stop here, and I'm just going to copy this, give a space, then I'm going to change this to first. Remember we have first here, first. I'm going to copy this and paste. So we have last, and for the email, just going to be picture.email, picture.email. So we are basically setting the values based on the structure of the data we are having. So the country is going to be let's check where we have our country. So have location, then under location we have the country. Under location we have the country. So I'm going to say picture, not picture, profile dot location dot country, and save. So the next thing we want to do, we want to put this into the DOM. So I'm going to say vars dot slides dot append child. We are using the append child. You can't use the we can't use inner HTML because this an HTML element is not a node element. So I'm going to say append child, and we're going to pass in this div we created here and save. Vars dot slides dot append child. You get picture is not defined in line 33. So this should be profile. Oh, this should be profile, not picture. Profile and save. Div is not defined. Oh, this should be slide. Slide, not div. I always like calling this div, so that's why I just call it div. Yeah, so you see, we have the pictures. So now that we are able to get the pictures, what do we want to do? We want to be able to click these two buttons and move move the slide. So to do that, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take vars dot forward left. Is it forward left? Let's just check. Forward left. This should be backward left. Backward, backward left. So we have backward left. We also want to change it to backward and save. So we have backward left, and we want to come to our event function, and I'm going to say add event listener, and I'm going to call this well, we want to listen for a click event. Then when that event fires off, I'm just going to call a function called backward slide. Does it even make any sense? But let's just leave it like that. So I'm going to copy this, and I want the other one on the top. So this should be backward, and this should be forward right, backward left. Then want to call forward forward slide, forward slide, and save. So I'm going to come down here and create that event through function and say forward slide, and we also want function. I'm just going to copy this down, and we're going to say backward slide, save. So yeah, so let's talk about how we want this to work. So I'm just going to come back to my CSS. In my CSS, I have the width of the container set to 358 pixels, and I have margin of 1 rem on both left and right for each card. So it simply means that the size of each card, both the margin is 390 pixels, because um, we have 358 pixels as the width, then 1 rem at this side, 1 rem at the other side, which is 24 pixels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my JavaScript, and I'm going to put in a global variable here. I'm just going to say let slide x, yeah, and I'm going to set this to be equal to 0. And I'm also going to have another variable, and I'm going to call it slide length. and I'm just going to set to undefined. So I want to get the length of the whole slide. So the length of the whole slide, I'm just going to get rid of this. The length of the slide is just going to be the number of card times the size of each card. So I'm just going to come over here where we are fetching the data. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set slide length to be equals to profiles dot results dot length, and I'm going to multiply it by 390, and I'm going to minus 170 pixels from it, 170 from it. So this is going to be our slide length. Now the reason I'm using profiles dot length, I could say 10 since we have 10 card here, but if you do that, it's not going to be dynamic. So take for example, we're fetching 20 data, then your code is going to break. So I'm actually getting the length of the results, what we are getting from the data. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to come to my forward slide, and I'm going to use an if statement here. So I'm going to say if slide x is not equal to slide length, what do we want to do? If it's not equal to slide length, then I'm going to increment slide x. I'm going to increment it by 390, and I'm going to get each slide. So this slide container, here, this is where we have all slides. This is where we have each card. So I'm going to say, I'm going to set a variable here, const, and I'm going to say slides. I can use slides even though I have another slide here because it's pertaining to only this function. You can only access this variable inside this scope. So I'm going to say array dot from to convert it. So I'm going to get vars dot slide, and I want the children. The children is going to return um like a node list. Yeah, it's going to return a node list or something that we can't iterate through. So we have to convert it into an array first to be able to iterate through it. So now that we have converted it into an array, we can actually use for each. So I'm going to say slide dot for each. So for each slide, I'm going to take the slide for each slide, and what do I want to do? I'm going to say slide dot transform dot style dot transform, and I'm going to set this to backticks, and I'm going to say translate translate x, and I'm going to set this to minus the slide x. So I'm going to set translate x. I'm going to set this slide x as the value of translate x. So I'm going to put slide x and add my pixel and save. So I'm just going to test this out. So if I click, you see it's moving. So let's just come back, and I'm just going to copy this function, what we have here. I'm going to copy this if statement. I'm going to come over here, paste it. What did I miss? Did I copy anything wrong? Okay, copy everything, paste it, And instead of comparing this to slide length, we want to compare this to 0. So I'm going to say if slide x is not equals to 0, then we want to take away, because this time we are moving backwards. So I'm going to take away, then everything is just going to be the same. I'm just going to save, and let's try this out. So now slide x is equal to 0, so it's not going to move. But if I move forward and click now, it's going to move backward. And see, get to the end. This more than 10 is like what we have here is 20. Um, 20 is too much. I'm just going to come over here and change this to 10. Want 10, you can do 20 or whatever you want. Okay, so let's try this out again. And if each time we reload, we are going to get different images because of the random user API. It's a very cool API. You can use it for other stuff like create a list of social media users. You can do so many things with it. So, all right, guys, thank you for watching. And if you stayed to the end of this video, thank you so much. I appreciate. So, I'm going to see you next time in another video.